Imagine this. I'm a college student. I'm completely new to the series. After I finish Persona 3 and 4, the next game that I want to take on is Persona 2 Innocent Sin. I played up to Kasagiyama High and then... nothing. That was in 2018. 2 years later, I've played most of the Persona games already and even a couple other Megaten titles, but still had yet to finish the Persona 2 duology. Why had I put this off for so long? What turned me off from it? Well, I made it this far. Might as well go all the way, right? Okay, I'm gonna be straight up here. I don't like this game. In fact, this is probably my least favorite Persona game in the series thus far. Now, I asked people on Twitter which of the classic Persona games was their favorite. Me being a small YouTube channel with an even smaller Twitter following, I didn't get a very large sample size, but based on what I can gather, Innocent Sin is the fan favorite. Keep in mind, a lot of these people haven't even played Eternal Punishment because they either refuse to emulate the PS1 version because they're morally opposed to it, or they're waiting for the fan translation for the PSP that was never received in the West. I mean, why the hell would you ever want to play a game on inferior hardware? We're not cavemen. Which is exactly why I chose to play the original PS1 version for this video. The thing people generally love the most about this game when it comes to any internet conversation that I've personally seen is the story and characters. Some will go as far to say that it has the best story and characters out of all of the Persona games. Some even go as far to say that Persona 2 Innocent Sin is the best Persona game, period. Wow, that's a high bar you've set there. Let's take a look and see. Our story begins at the bike racks of Seven Sisters High with our protagonist Tatsuya. Ms. Sayako from Persona 1 gives him a very short counseling session asking what he wants to do after high school. This choice doesn't really matter too much, so pick whatever one you want. Right afterwards, your biggest fangirl Lisa tells you that a student from Sevens is being held captive by a gang from the rival school, Kasagiyama, led by Eikichi, or Michelle. So as the designated Chad of the school, it is somehow your responsibility to ride your motorcycle over there and handle the situation yourself. Turns out, dude just wanted another band member. Lisa makes fun of him, which angers him to the point where he summons his persona on them. Tatsuya and Lisa, in the heat of the moment, awaken to theirs as well. Philemon appears to them, but who cares, he's probably not important, just here to play Zordon again. Anyway, he warns them that something strange is happening in Sumaru City, where widespread rumors become reality, and now we become teenagers with attitude. They wake up, and all mutually agree that the best way to test if this is true or not is by playing a life or death game called Joker's Call. Why not test it on something equally as unfeasible but safer, like, I don't know, the Tooth Fairy? Or better yet, they literally spread another rumor afterwards about places selling weapons. They couldn't have done that first? Keep in mind, one of them already knew there was a grave penalty if you screwed it up. But no, we had to go and lose 3 bodies. Joker appears to them, claiming to want revenge, but nobody remembers him. And then he leaves all embarrassed, like they just told him, new phone, who dis? But, you know, he'll be back. Well, at this point, you're aware of Joker, and are trying to find out more details about him and his masked circle. You're kinda just chasing down rumor after rumor, trying to gain details and get closer to some answers. Except that's not nearly as interesting as it sounds. The first 2 dungeons end with the game basically just directing you to go to the next place or look for this person now. You don't get any real details about the masked circle until they literally just appear to you after the 3rd dungeon. Then Lisa gets dragged into a rumor where she's the member of a new idol group with her 2 friends, and is forced out of your party. In the next 2 dungeons, literally nothing happens, no joke. You go to the next place, you get a little bit of dialogue. You go to the next place, you get a little bit of dialogue. Then finally you go to Aoba Park, and get to listen to a pretty good musical number. And finally, you get to take on one of the Masked Circle's higher-ups, Prince Taurus. He's not actually that important. Then shit jumps from 0 to 100 and the place blows up. And now you gotta stop 2 other places from blowing up. Then you fight another character nobody cares about. Finally, you reach the Aerospace Museum, which gets set on fire, and you gotta rescue some kids, so you conclude the only way out is to fly one of the blimps out of there. But then the blimp catches on fire, so you jump out of the blimp with one child in each arm without parachutes, and somehow survive making it to shore. Oh, yeah, and you fight King Leo and never see him again. Also, remember those buildings you saved? He explodes them anyway. So our heroes running all around Sumaru's city right before the explosions happened causes rumors to spread that they're the terrorists behind all of this. To top it all off, a rumor about Hitler surviving World War II and his last battalion may have surfaced. So you know what that means. But then suddenly, things actually start to get interesting. The main cast then go to Mount Iwato to unearth some memories that they left behind there. It turns out that everyone has already met before, years ago, and that they were the original Masked Circle, disbanded after they committed their innocent sin. The story before the story goes a little something like this. A teenage Maya announces that she has to move away soon. The children are so devastated that they lock her up inside the shrine so that she can't leave them. Yes, these small children against someone way bigger than them. Later that night, the place caught on fire. They presumed Maya dead because she didn't come up when they found out about the incident. But she's still here, so obviously that's a lie. And it turns out there was another friend. Jun. This friend was Joker. This was the reason for his grudge against the others. So they fight Jun. He comes to his senses and it turns out he wasn't really the bad guy, it was his dad. And the entire city of Sumaru has risen into the sky and becomes Xibalba. Jun replaces Yukino in your party. You go to 4 different temples collecting the crystal skulls. And fight your shadow selves that were formed from the rumors of you being terrorists. Not as eventful as you might think because that shit all goes by real fucking fast. Then you finally face the dictator himself, but it turns out it wasn't actually Hitler, it was Jun's dad. Except it wasn't Jun's dad, it was Nyarlathotep. And it turns out this was all a bet between him and Philemon to test humanity. Oops, I guess I was wrong. Philemon is a pretty big deal, huh? And us being here basically means Philemon won the bet, right? Except no, bad guy is a sore loser and just kills Maya at the last second. Maya's death fulfills the Oracle of Maya, appropriately named, and then the world ends. Okay, so despite the stupid circumstance of this all being part of a dumb wager between otherworldly beings, what happens next is actually some pretty powerful shit. Philemon tells you that the world can revert back to normal and Maya will be alive again if the group erases the day that they all met, as it was the catalyst for all this catastrophe. With no other choice, they go through with it. Everyone promises they'll meet again in the new timeline, and you are given one last choice. You can either thank him or punch him. What? This dick literally went and put the world at stake for a fucking bet. He doesn't even apologize for it. Maya literally died because of him. And now I'm supposed to be thankful? Upon punching the mask off his face, You can see through the cracks, the spitting image of your own face. He says he'll always be watching, and you disappear. When everything is reverted, you get a glimpse of everyone's normal lives again. And of course, everyone happens to end up on the same busy street, on the day the game started. It's actually a very sweet moment. Now you'll notice that I neglected to mention any of the pivotal character moments, and that's because I wanted to talk about the characters individually. All of them start some sort of arc early in the game, and they don't get touched again until near the end of the game. Michel puts on a narcissistic act because of his low self-esteem issues developed from being bullied by his classmates when he was younger, and harsh mistreatment from his asshat dad. So of course, that lands you the role of being physically abused by Lisa. He's basically the punching bag for this game. Why? Because there has to be one. It's Persona. What did you expect? And like a lot of other punching bags in this series, he really deserves more respect. He was dating a girl named Hanakoji, the girl he was holding captive at the beginning of the game. But they broke up some time ago, and she got so depressed about it that she gained a ton of weight, to the point where Michel doesn't even realize it's her and insults her pretty badly. But upon finding out that this was the same girl he once dated, he immediately steps up to save her from whoever this guy is from the second dungeon. Who gives a shit? Before he even gets the chance to reconcile with her, she runs off, and then it's left hanging until near the end of the game. Ultimately, he does get the girl, and she gets to be skinny again, but Michel's already proven that his love wasn't superficial, so I guess it's fine. Lisa's in an interesting situation of being full-blood not Japanese, but growing up her entire life there because her dad is a huge weeaboo, and decided to live there for the rest of his life and goes really all out on embracing the culture there. Holy shit. She just kinda wants to be herself and not what other people expect her to be by her appearance, which is cool. It wasn't worth going through 2 pointless dungeons for, but honestly, the concert scene was way better than most of what you've seen so far at that point anyway. It just felt kinda odd to me how they went in and threw in all these other problems on her out of nowhere before the fight with their shadow. Like suddenly we're talking about drugs and getting paid for favors from older guys. Usually they at least hint at this kind of stuff first, but here it's all just dumped on you. They added all this baggage to an otherwise already complete character arc that ended way earlier in the game. Maya spends most of the game being the team motivator, but she's terrified of fire for obvious reasons if you paid attention to my plot summary. She does face her fear though. Being the oldest of the group, she tries to act like a responsible and strong adult, but even she has her moments of weakness, and the group kinda has to remind her that it's okay for her to lean on them sometimes. That's all there really is to say about her. I mean, even the personality section on her Megaten wiki page is short. Simple, but fine. Oh yeah, did I mention Yukino from Persona 1 comes back in this game? Yeah, in fact, a lot of the Persona 1 characters return in this game. Except for Mark and Ayase. Everyone except Yukino is limited to just cameos in this game though. Yukino sorta has an arc involving some other girl who she doesn't want going down a bad path like she did before the events of Persona 1, but we'll get to that later. Her arc also involves this guy, Shunsuke, who literally throws himself into the battlefield and dies to take some good-ass photos. Damn, that's a lot of dedication for a photography job. Then there's Jun. Honestly, I liked him more before joining the party. His whole shtick is that he's Tatsuya's childhood best friend, and also potential love interest if the player chooses to ship it! Him joining the party and having Yukino pass her persona powers onto him honestly reminds me of the Green Candle episode from the original Power Rangers series. where the Green Ranger had to pass his powers on to the Red Ranger and leave, which just enforces my idea that Philemon is the Zordon of this game. Don't at me. His whole character arc is basically Kane Highwind. He was manipulated into being evil by the real bad guy, and he really pushes the point when he joins that he wants to atone for his wrongdoings as Joker. Not a bad character, just nothing spectacular. I've already referenced 2 other pieces of media when talking about him, so you should have an idea of why that is. So you have a decent main cast, but there's a boatload of characters that just really don't matter. Like, I'm talking worse than Strega. These characters do nothing but are treated like a big deal in the story. Take Anna, for example. She was a star athlete at Tatsuya's school until a hit-and-run accident. Now she's skipping class, smoking, and underage drinking at the club. But it turns out she's part of the Masked Circle! And she does nothing. Literally, she does not accomplish anything as a villain. The next time you see her, she goes off with Yukino after she gives up her persona. She never even had her wish granted by Joker like the other members. She's ultimately just a device to help develop Yukino. I like her character design though. Then you've got this little girl, Ixquick, however you pronounce that. You fight her, but she still doesn't do anything. The moment things start to go sour and the bad guys turn on her, shocking, I know. She cries her eyes out for a minute and then promises to be a good girl from now on. Prince Taurus is a one-off villain much like the other early game bosses, which would have been fine, but then the game tries to trick you into thinking he could possibly be more important by saying he's returned in the final dungeon, only to find him dead. And oh yeah, King Leo, or Tatsuya Sudo. He set the shrine on fire back when Maya was locked up there, but he's literally gone just like that. He didn't get a very kingly status in this game. Now, I haven't played Eternal Punishment yet, so I don't know if these characters play a more important or interesting role in that game, or if they're just relegated to cameos, but I don't really care. Don't even try to mention it. For this video, I'm talking specifically about Innocent Sin as a standalone game. I'll talk about Eternal Punishment if I ever play it, alright? But look. I know, this is a video game we're talking about. You don't have to take the story or characters too seriously. Truth is, I don't actually care that much. I usually look past all of that. My main concern when it comes to any game that isn't entirely driven by narrative, like a walking sim or whatever, is the gameplay. I'm pretty sure that's what most people do anyway, but I can't even do that with this game. So, what's wrong with it? Well, first, let's look back one entry to Persona 1. It's a little bit different from your normal JRPG, but overall it's a pretty simple system. Persona 1 takes that and simplifies it even more when that really was not needed. Instead of fusing new personas, you summon them from the Velvet Room at a cost. Not a monetary cost, but cost in tarot cards. How do you get them, you might ask? By negotiating with demons, you can get a fixed amount of cards from that demon's arcana. But the thing is, just like with all the other games, you can't summon anything too high level for you. You're limited not just by your own level, which is normal, but also the arcana of the demons you encounter. On top of that, successfully contacting a demon once doesn't give you enough cards to get a persona out of the Velvet Room, most of which are the demons you're already encountering anyway. You have to talk to the same demons over and over again just to get enough cards to use the demons you're seeing in front of you. Are you starting to see the problem? Without using a guide, it'll already take some trial and error attempts to hit it off with a demon, and on top of that, you're not always going to be encountering the same exact demons every battle. You could potentially be sitting there for an hour trying to encounter enough Nekomatas just to be able to have one, instead of it just joining you after talking to it once. Yes, they somehow made it oversimplified and counterintuitive. Any of the really good personas that you may not see in normal encounters require a shitload of cards, meaning you have to sit down and grind even longer. I don't know if they just didn't feel like reprogramming the fusion system for the 1000th time and making another fusion table, but even the people who like this game agree that this was just a bad idea. And guess what? You don't even need to use the Velvet Room for most of the game. I played around with it a little bit early on, but once I got a persona with Estoma and Trifuri, I just let my prime personas carry me until I got the ultimate personas, both of which the game just gives you, by the way, given you make the right choices in game. You don't even have to summon them from the Velvet Room with cards. Literally, they're just handed to you. You had to grind your ass off to be a high enough level to fuse them in Persona 1 and 3. You couldn't even fuse the ultimate personas until New Game Plus in Persona 4 and 5. Here, the game just gives you everything you need to plow through the rest of the game. This brings me to my next point. This game is easy. Like, really easy. This is the first time ever that a game has been ruined for me by being too easy. I'm not even saying that a game being easy is necessarily a bad thing. Even Persona 5 Royal being absurdly easy doesn't stop it from still having some fun aspects to its gameplay. Look at Pokemon Crystal. It's widely considered to be one of the easiest games in the series because of how ridiculously low its level curve is. But even as easy as it is, and being one of the most simplistic RPGs in concept, I can still have fun with it. Now, if I'm having more fun playing Baby's first RPG than this game, you know there's a problem. This isn't just me trying to flex how good I am at RPGs and saying that this game is beneath me. The game literally puts up almost no resistance against your onslaught. There are absolutely no random encounters on the world map. Thank God, the encounter rate in this game is pretty bad. I can tell you right now that most other RPGs don't have this many encounters. Pretty much every town has a weapon, armor, item shop, and a rumor monger. Rumor mongers essentially determine the price and quality at the weapon and armor shops, and not much else. Some NPCs may give you rumors about certain demons appearing at places, and you can spread them to make them come true. After hunting down said demon, you're rewarded with some items that you could probably sell off for a lot of money. It's kind of like a bounty hunt, which is cool, but sadly that's about the full extent of the rumor system. I don't even think the battle mechanics are worth talking about, because they literally don't matter. I bumbled my ass around with no clue what I was doing, not bothering with any fusion spells unless I accidentally discovered them. And it took me until the final boss to finally lose. In fact, I'm pretty positive I'm the only person on this planet who knows what the game over screen looks like in this game, so here it is. Now before you all make fun of me for somehow managing to die in this game, may I remind you that it took until literally the end of the game to get wiped, while playing the game unoptimally. All that being said, the final boss is easily the most enjoyable fight in the game. It actually made me consider the game mechanics being presented to me, taking into account my weaknesses and resistances, what skills my personas needed, fusion spells, manually rearranging the turn order in battle, and for a brief moment, I could actually feel a small glimmer of appreciation for the battle system. But then the fight ends, and you remember that was the final fight in the game, and it just leaves so much to desire. And then you realize this was nerfed even more in the PSP version, and then you cry because you get a stupid copyright claim on your video because of the end credits song. That being said, the music in this game is actually pretty damn good. The opening to this game really entices you with the melancholic piano in the first half. And right as you start to wonder if this is all there is to it, it really does get you hyped to play the game for the first time. If only it could have kept that momentum going, but hey, I'm trying my best to give credit where it's due. I think a lot of this game's personality comes from its soundtrack and presentation. It can set the mood, and at least I was bobbing my head the entire game. just like all the other games in the series, it has a very memorable soundtrack. Some of it is so good, I actually can't play it in this video or I'll get copyright claimed. And man, even for 90s PS1 animation quality, it looks fantastic. Definitely a step up from the Baldi's Unreal Basic quality stuff from Persona 1. So is this game bad? No, not really. There are still things about this game that I do like. Honestly, the thing about these long-running successful series is that each entry is so iconic, it's hard to really hate any of them. I honestly think I would have liked this game better as an OVA or something, which is ironic because it's usually the modern games that are described as anime shit. This game just has that 90s anime vibe. In fact, this got me in the mood to watch some 90s anime. It's unfortunate that the animation for this game never came to fruition, because I might have actually liked it. The point of this video was not to rant about how this game murdered my children and ruined my life or whatever. I'm just kinda tired of people holding this game to such a godly status and acting like it's all been downhill since then. People seriously acting like we lost something when the game's shifted genres from an RPG to an RPG dating sim hybrid. It's okay to have a favorite, but come on, people. At the end of the day, it's just another Persona game. I would argue that every Persona game has its fair share of stretches and leaps in logic, as well as straight-up absurdities, and they're definitely present here. The only thing that's really changed is the genre. Now, of course, I'm aware that this change affects a lot of other things, like the pacing of the plot and character development. The series hasn't lost anything, though. If anything, it's just adding stuff that people might not like. Or maybe you do. How much you enjoy each game is entirely dependent on where your priorities lie. How much the story resonates with you and how much you relate to the characters depends on your personal experiences. And how much you like them depends on your tastes. I shouldn't have to tell you people this. These things are true across all video games. I could make a whole video on this topic, but I'll just stop here while I have the chance to wrap things up. And lastly, will I play Eternal Punishment? Honestly, I don't know if or when that'll ever happen. It took me 2 years to finally sit down and play this game. I think this might be a sign that I just need to take a break from Persona and play some other games. My intent was never to try and change people's minds, or to ruin the game for you. First of all, I can't. People who like the game will continue to like it after watching this video, and that's perfectly fine. Second of all, that's just kinda petty, not gonna lie.